At the end of class, like I said, if you have any questions on your test at the end of class, you're more than welcome to ask any questions. I'll work any problem on that test if you want me to. But let's just save it for the end of class. For those who don't have questions, they can leave. If you do have questions, you can stay, and I'll be more than happy to answer this. On this test, there are 15 bonus points available, 5 points for Remind 101, and then 10 points for a completed study guide. If you missed out on those 15 bonus points, I don't know. I mean, those points are easy to obtain, and I would strongly suggest that you try to get as many points as you possibly can between now and final exam date. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start into Chapter 2. In your books, you'll start on approximately page 43. What I'm going to do in Chapter 2 is we will talk about equations, we will talk about inequalities, and we will talk about problem solving, word problems, whatever. Now, I want to give you a heads up on this so that you can get the panic out of the way before final exam time. There are going to be word problems, multiple word problems on the final exam. We will do a bunch of word problems in Chapter 2, and there will be no surprises on the final exam. If you go ahead and look at the study guide on Blackboard for the final exam, you will see these are called application problems. That's where the word problems are going to come from. Most of them come out of Chapter 2. All right? So we will go through a lot of the word problems. On your Chapter 2 test, there will be word problems. So I'm giving you a heads up now. If they freak you out, the best way to overcome that panic attack feeling is to practice them. Do the study guide. Do the problems that we do in class. Become familiar with them, because the type of problems that we're doing in class and the type of problems that are on the study guide for Chapter 2 test are the ones that are going to be on the test. So work them until you alleviate that stress, and then on the test you'll be fine. Final exam. It's multiple choice. The final exam is multiple choice. If you can't take those answers and plug it into a problem, which is probably the easiest way to do it on the final exam, then just practice. That's all I can say is practice, practice, practice. If you're nervous about it, just practice it. All right. So we're going to start off really, really easy, because most of these equations, you already know how to solve equations. You should know how to solve equations. If you got into this class, you should know how to solve a basic equation. All right? So solving equations refers to the process of finding the number that makes an algebraic equation a true numerical statement. Basically what that means is you're looking for the variable. What is x equal to? What is n equal to? What is y equal to? All equations have two sides. They have a left side that equals the right side. The difference between Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Chapter 1, we dealt with algebraic expressions. There were no equal signs. Chapter 2, we have equal signs. That equal sign is a division mark, and it sets the left side apart from the right side. And we're going to talk about that extensively in just a second. Now, the equal sign means that the equation must stay balanced at all times. So anytime you do something on the left, you've got to do it on the right. Okay? So, here are your steps. Step number 1 comes from Chapter 1. What you're going to do is, if you have an equation, what I would like for you to do, especially if you're not savvy on solving equations. Now, if you've got this, and I'm not talking to you, but if you're a little shaky on it, then follow what I'm about to say. Take your pencil or pen, and when you come across an equation, draw a line down the equal sign. Just go all the way down, and then you'll see your left side and your right side. If there is any simplifying to be done on either side, do that first. So, for example, and that's all chapter 1 stuff, okay? Combining like terms, distributive property, get rid of your parentheses, something like that, okay? Once you've done that, once you've got the left side and the right side simplified from your chapter 1 stuff, then you're going to start moving things across the equal sign. Step number 1, you're not moving anything across the equal sign. Step number 2, you're going to use what we call the addition principle. Basically, if you want to move something off of either side, you're going to add its opposites and do the same thing on the other side. Then at the very last step, you're going to have a variable term equal to a constant term. And the last step you're going to do is that multiplication principle. So you're going to divide by what you're trying to get rid of. Okay? So let's put this into action. Let's do some basic, simple equations. And this is what I'm talking about. Here's your equal sign. So you have your left side and you have your right side. On the left-hand side, you cannot simplify. There's no like terms. There's no parentheses. There's nothing to be done. And, of course, on the right-hand side, you just have a 22. So, as far as simplifying the sides, that doesn't apply here. And it won't always apply. So now what we need to do is we need to start the addition principle. Well, I have a variable term, and I have two non-variable terms. I have a 4x, and I have a 2, and I have a 22. Now, I don't want to get the 22 with the 2. I don't want to pull the 22 to the left, because that's going to leave me with nothing on the right-hand side, which is just going to complicate things. Instead, and this is what you need to think, you need to start working on separating your variable terms and your non-variable terms. So what I want to do is I want to get that 2 away from that 4x. If they're not like terms, you want to separate them on the sides. So I want to move that 2. Well, the opposite of 2 is going to be negative 2, and hopefully most of you have already solved this equation. The 2 and negative 2 is going to go to 0. Just mark it out. Don't write the 0. On the left-hand side, I'm left with a 4x is equal to, now, over here on the right, I have 22 and a negative 2, and that's how I want you to look at that. 22 and a negative 2 is going to be 20. Now, my variable terms are separated from my non-variable terms, so the very last step I need to do is the division property or the multiplication property, so we're going to divide by 4. And so you're going to get x is equal to 5. Simple, basic equation. Everybody sitting in this room should be able to do this. Okay, so let's go to the one on the right. The one on the right, we have variables and non-variables on both sides. There's still no simplifying. There's not any like terms on each side, so step number 1 is still done. But the difference between this problem and the one on the left is you have a choice. The one on the left, you didn't really have a choice. You needed to make the 2. But the one on the right, all I know right now is I need to get my y terms on one side and my non-y terms on the other side. And it doesn't matter which is which. How many of you have to have your variable on the left-hand side? And that's okay. That's very okay. I tried to make it to where I'm not going to have any negatives. But you can do whatever you want to. The point being is this. After, it's going to be a 2-step equation. Some of you can probably make it into a 1-step. But it is going to be a 2-step equation. After those 2 steps, you want your y's on one side and your non-y's on the other side. Okay? So, you have a choice. This very first step, you have a choice. You have 4 terms. Pick one to move. Which one do you want to move? 4y. Okay. So, is that a positive 4y or a negative 4y? That's a positive 4y, but I need a negative 4y. I know what you mean. So, I need a negative 4y on both sides, and make sure you line it up with its like terms. So, now I have 5y on the left plus 3 is equal to a negative 10. Now your choices are over. Since you chose to move the y to the left, you have to move the non-y to the right. So I have to move that 3 over to the right. So we're going to do a negative 3. And so I have 5y is equal to negative 10 and negative 3. Signs are the same, so you're going to add and keep that common sign, so you have a negative 13. Now, you have your y's on one side, your non-y's on the other side. Last step, divide by what you need to get rid of. And so you get y is equal to negative 13 fifths. Leave it as a fraction. If you want to turn it into 2 and 3, negative 2 and 3/5, that's fine, but no decimal. Okay, the only time you're going to give me a decimal is if you start with a decimal. Other than that, I want a fraction. Or a whole number, of course. And why there's 2 negatives in this problem, I do not know. Okay. So far, so good? Y'all can do this, right? Okay, now, let's put all the steps together. Look at your left-hand side. What can you do? Combine like terms. Now listen to me, okay? 25% of the people sitting in this class will do this incorrectly on the test. As long as I'm just working with the left side, as long as I'm not taking it across the equal sign, I'm doing chapter 1 stuff. In chapter 1, all we did was combine like terms. We never added the opposite in chapter 1. Okay? So, to combine like terms, I'm just going to do 2n and negative 3n, which is negative 1n, and then I have the minus 1. The most common mistake is somebody will say, oh, well, I need to get the 2n and the negative 3n together, so I'm going to add 3n to both sides. And that's what they'll do. They'll do 3n here and 3n here. That's the addition principle. The only reason why you would do the addition principle is to take it across the equal sign. We didn't take anything across the equal sign. So don't make that mistake. Just combine like terms in that first step. So on the right-hand side, how many n's do I have? 2. I have a 5n and a negative 3n, which is going to be 2n minus 7. Finish this problem up, please. Let me catch up to you and let's see how we did. For the one on the left, which one did you choose to move? The negative n? Okay. So let's add n to both sides. That's what I heard, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so we have negative 1 is equal to 3n minus 7. Since I moved the n to the right, I have to move the 7 to the left, so I'm going to add 7. And if this is not the way you went, it's okay. You're going to get the exact same answer. So now I have my variables separated from my non-variables, and I'm going to divide by 3. So did everybody get 2? Okay. The one on the right, what was your first move? Very good. Distributive property. What did you distribute? A negative 5. That 3x has nothing to do with those parentheses. We've got to get rid of the parentheses first. So we're going to distribute a negative 5. Do you remember doing this in chapter 1? You had a test on it? Okay. So you have 3x, and then negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x, and negative 5 times 5 is going to be negative 5 is equal to 13. Still going to need to combine like terms, so we still have some simplifying to do. So we have negative 7x minus 5 equals 13. Now we need to get that negative 5 over there with 13, so we're going to add 5 to both sides. So we have negative 7x is equal to 18. Divide both sides by negative 7, and you get x is equal to negative 18/7. How do we do? And if you got negative 2 and 4/7, it's the same thing. Just no decimals, okay? Now, if you think I'm going way too fast when I start working these problems, I think you guys should know how to do these problems. I totally think you should know how to do these problems. So, when I give you an opportunity to work on these problems by yourself, do them. If you're stuck, ask somebody to help you. Okay? Please. Right now, this is straight review. Everybody, whether you came through 09-8, high school, whatever your case may be, you should have this. Try this one. And what I want you to do... Alright, here we go. What we need to do first is we need to get rid of all these parentheses. So we're going to distribute a negative 3 to the first group. So we're going to have negative 12n, negative 6. For the next group, we're going to distribute a 2. So we're going to have a positive 2n and a negative 12. On the right-hand side, we're going to distribute a negative 2, so we'll have a negative 2n and a negative 2. On the left-hand side, we need to combine like terms, not add the opposite, because we're staying on the same side. So we have a negative 10n, and then a negative 6 and a negative 12 is a negative 18. On the right-hand side, we don't have anything to do. So now we're ready to start moving things around. I'm going to take the negative 10 in to the right, so we're going to add 10 in. If you didn't do that, don't erase. It's fine. You're going to come up with the same answer. So on the right-hand side, I have 8 in minus 2, and then I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and we'll have 8 in is equal to negative 16. If we divide both sides by 8, you're going to get n is equal to negative 2. That's what I'm thinking. You can have a negative 18 at top.
I didn't know you did that.
Questions? Are we good? Alright, so let's try to set this one up. Oh, I know, it's just awful. If we subtract 27 from 3 times a certain number, the result is 18. Find the number. Okay, we know that we're going to subtract 27 from 3 times a certain number. So we're going to take 27 from something. What is that something? It is going to have x in it, but you got to multiply 3 times that x. 3 times a certain number minus 27. The result is, that's your equal sign, 18. That's not so bad, right? Oh, whatever. If we subtract 27 from, that's the key word to let you know that you're going to write it backwards, 3 times a certain number, the result is, that's your equal sign, 18. Find x. Find x. You got 30 seconds. Okay. So we're going to add 27 to both sides. So we'll have 3x is equal to, what is that, 45? Divided by 3, and you get x is equal to 50. Alright, here's another one. Eric received a car repair bill for $389. So that's going to be his total. So you should know that that's going to be equal to $389. Now, this includes $159 for parts plus $43 per hour of labor plus $15 for taxes. Now look at what you're looking for, and that will tell you where your variable should be. It says find the number of hours. So where's your variable going to be? Right here. It includes $59 for parts, $43 per hour, but we don't know how many hours, and we're looking for the number of hours. So find x. Very good. All right, so we have 159, just combining like terms, plus 15, just combining these two. So we have 174 plus 43x is equal to 389. From here, you should know where to go. We're going to minus 174. So we're going to have 215 divided by 43. And you should get x is equal to 5. Okay? Alright, consecutive integers. We did this in 098. Do you remember the rules for consecutive integers? What if it's just one right after the other? If you have 3 consecutive integers, how would you set that up? 3 consecutive integers. What would the first integer be? What would the first number be? N. And we're talking about sum, so that means to add, right? What would the next number be? N plus 1. And what would the next number be? Because think about it. Let's just pretend the first number is, I don't know, 6. What would be the next number in the count? 7. How'd you get there? You add 1. What would the next number be? From 6 to 8, how many do you have to add? 2. So if I wanted 4 numbers, what would the 4th number represent? Yeah, n plus 3. And you just keep going. The first number is going to be n. And then if you're just counting by 1, you're just going to add 1 each time. So it'd be n plus 1, n plus 2, and so on and so forth. Alright, so find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 48. Solve this. Okay, look. Like I said, I know you can use logic to solve these problems, but the whole point, we are in a equation solving chapter. Use the rules. Combine your like terms. On the left-hand side, we have 3 n's. 1, 2, 3. And we also have a 1 and a 2 that we need to add together. And then from here, we're just going to solve. So if we minus 3 from both sides, you're going to get 3n is equal to 45. If you divide by 3, you're going to get n is equal to 15. So your first number is 15. What's the next number?
16.
And the next number. So see, some of you are wrong. Use algebra. Please. Use algebra. So 4 consecutive integers. The first number is going to be n. The next one's going to be n plus 1. The third one's going to be n plus 2. The fourth one's going to be n plus 3 is equal to negative 118. Alright, so now we have 4 n's plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 is going to be 6 is negative 118. So if we minus 6 from both sides, you're going to have 4n is equal to negative 124. Divide both sides by 4, and you're going to get n is equal to negative 31. Now, from here, move to the right up the number line. So if we're at negative 31 here, then the next number is going to be negative 30. Next one's going to be negative. And then, now, how can you check your work? Add them together and you should come up with negative 118. So, on your test, please make sure you understand what I'm asking you for. If I'm asking you for 4 numbers, make sure there's 4 numbers on your answer blank. If I'm asking you for 3 numbers, make sure there's 3 numbers on your answer blank. And make sure you check your answers on these. You can check your answers on these no matter what. And guys, listen to me. On your final exam, it's multiple choice. Take your answers. If you can't figure it out, take your answers, plug it into the problem, and see which one comes out. I don't care. It's longer that way, but whatever. Now your test and your chapter 2 test won't be multiple choice, but your final exam will be. Okay, look at this one. This one's a little bit different. Can you tell me why? Even. So let's say that our first number was 6. What would the next even number be?
8.
How would you get there?
Plus 2.
Plus 2. What would the next one be? From 6, how are you going to get to 10?
Plus 4.
Plus 4. What's the next one? From 6, how are you going to get to 12?
Plus 6.
Okay, so if the question says the sum of 3 consecutive even integers, the first one's going to be n, and we're adding these together, I think. The sum of 3 consecutive even integers. So you have n, and then you have n plus 2, that's your second number, and then n plus 4 is your third number. So the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is, now this next part is equal sign always. You have to read through it, okay? 6 less than. That means you're going to take 6 from something. 6 less than 2 times the largest of the 3 even integers. 6 less than. That's one number, or one group. That's your minus 6. 2 times the largest of the 3 even integers. 2 times, what's the largest of the 3?
Plus 4.
And there's your equation. Alright, so for this one, on the left-hand side, we have 3n plus 6. On the right-hand side, we have 2n plus 8 minus 6. So you have 3n plus 6 is equal to 2n plus 2. So if we minus 2n from both sides, we'll have n plus 6 is equal to 2. If we minus 6 from both sides, we're going to have n is equal to negative 4. So if negative 4 is your first number, next even is negative 2, and then the next even is going to be 0. I know it's neutral, but you can't skip it. Okay? So you have negative 4, negative 2, and 0. And most people got that. The question is, could you set this up? I did the hard part for you. Okay? So that's the true question is, could you set this up? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to, in your book, on page 48, try number 56. Try number 56. And I'm going to sum this up really, really quickly, okay? To solve an equation that has one or more fractions in it, we're going to clear the fractions. We're going to get rid of the fractions by multiplying through by the LCD, least common denominator. Okay? So, if you want to deal with the fractions, you can, but eventually you're going to have to learn how to do this technique in order to be successful in Chapter 4 anyway, so you may as well learn it now. So, again, to work an equation that has fractions in it, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply, and I cannot stress this enough, everything by the LCD. Every single term. So what you're going to do when you come across an equation that has a fraction in it, you're going to count how many terms are in it. However many terms are in it, you're going to multiply that many terms by your LCD. Don't leave anything else. Okay? So, very first one. Look, you have 3/8 x plus 1/3 is equal to 7/12. Now, I know, Miss Adams, why can't we just minus 1/3 from both sides and then multiply by their reciprocal? You can. But like I said, eventually you're going to have to learn this technique anyway, so you may as well start it with the easy ones. What is the LCD, and think before you speak because I don't want you to be embarrassed, what is the LCD between 8, 3, and 12? Good deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply every term by 20, basically 24 over 1 if you don't have a calculator. So my question is this, how many terms are in this equation? 1, 2, 3. There's 3 terms in this equation. So we're going to multiply all 3 terms by 24. Now watch this. In your calculator, do 24 times 3/8. 24 times 3/8. What do you get? 9. So your first term turns into a 9x. Now do 24 times 1/3. What do you get? 8. Now do 24 times 7/12. What do you get? And now you have a basic equation that you can solve. So if you continue to solve this, of course, you're going to minus 8 from both sides. And you'll have, what, 9x is equal to 6. And then divide both sides by 9. And you get x is equal to, no decimals. No decimals. I do want you to reduce, but I don't want any decimals. So this is going to be what? 2/3? All right. Try the one on the right. And the one on the bottom. Try both of them. Okay. Let's finish these 2 problems up. The one on the top right, the LCD is going to be 12. Now, like I said, this is 1/4 n. It's the same thing as 1/4. So 12 times 1/4. Basically, if you don't have a calculator, watch this. Basically, what your calculator is doing, we'll go back over here since we have it already. 8 will go into 24 3 times, and 3 times 3 is 9. 3 will go into 24 8 times, and 8 times 1 is 8. 12 will go into 24 2 times, and 2 times 7 is 14. That's essentially what's going on. So watch this. 4 will go into 12 3 times, and 3 times 1n is 3n. 6 will go into 12 2 times, and 2 times 5 is negative 10. And then 12 just cancels out, and you just get 5. Alright, so add 10 to both sides, and you get 3n is equal to 15. Divide both sides by 3. and you get n is equal to 5. Alright, the one on the bottom, your LCD is going to be 20. So one more time, if you don't have a calculator, 4 will go into 25 times, and 5 times 3h is 15h. 5 will go into 24 times, and 4 times 2h is 8h. And now remember what I said earlier. You're going to multiply the LCD times every single term. Well, in this problem, I didn't say however many fractions you have. I said however many terms you have. So in this problem, I have 1, 2, 3 terms. So I've got to multiply that 20 1, 2, 3 times. So 20 times 1 is going to be 20. Combine like terms and you have 23h is equal to 20. Divide by 23. And you get h is equal to 20 over 23. Alright. So let's look at the one on the top left. What is the LCD between 2, 4, and 10? 20. The LCD between 2, 4, and 10 is going to be 20. Now this problem is a little bit different because the numerators are binomials. The process is exactly the same. How many terms do I have? Watch this. I have 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to multiply this 20 1, 2, 3 times. So now you can't use your calculator because you have a binomial on top. You have to do what I was doing a while ago without your calculator. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to say 2 will go into 20 10 times. And so we're going to have 10 times that numerator. One more time. 4 will go into 25 times, but notice you have that minus sign, so it's going to be minus 5 times the numerator. Do you understand where the 5 came from? 4 into the 20 equals 10 will go into 22 times, and 2 times 3 is 6. That one's pretty straight up. Alright, from here, you should be able to do this. Distributive property, so we'll have 20x minus 10 minus 15x minus 5 is equal to 6. Please check your third step, what I just wrote down, with mine, and make sure your signs are exact. Because that minus sign in between those two will throw you off every single time. So make sure you have exactly what I have, signs and all. If not, you didn't take the negative 5 times the 3x and the negative 5 times 1. So you should have negative 5x and negative 5.
Where did you get the 10 and negative 5? Did you just multiply by the denominator with this?
Are you talking about this one, and this one?
Yeah.
Yes. 2 will go into 20 10 times, and that 10 is right there. 4 will go into 25 times, and that 5 is right there.
And then you just did it normally?
Yes. Alright, so let's finish it out. Combine like terms on the left-hand side. Hopefully you combine the 20x and the negative 15x and got 5x. And then, that's there. And then the negative 10 and the negative 5 is negative 15. That is not the addition principle. You're on the same side. Don't add the opposite. Just combine them. Is equal to 6. Alright, so if we add 15 to both sides, we'll have 5x is equal to 21. Divide by 5, and you get x is equal to 21 fifths, or what, 4 1/5? Either way. No decimals. Are you good? Okay, today's what, Wednesday? I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend. If you have questions on your test or anything else, please stick around.